Alright, hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and we are entering one of the literally the most powerful lead in Go Battle League as a level 50 Pokemon in Great League. Enter Medicham. Now, you've probably seen Medicham a lot. It has been featured in a lot of top teams. A lot of top players do use Medicham. It's also one of the strongest Pokemon in Go Battle League, even before it became level 50 eligible. At a best buddy, this thing was absolutely destroying the meta, taking things down with a fantastic moveset and maxing out at level 40. Now that it maxes out at level 50, a lot of things change because Medicham going to punch you down and it's going to take everything you know and love, because now it's literally the most powerful lead in Go Battle League statistically, and even then, overall, it's still an incredibly powerful Pokemon. As you see, Fighting and Psychic. This is a very unique typing because what Fighting and Psychic allows you to do, it gives you very few weaknesses. So because of the Fighting, the Fighting typing, you neutralize the Dark weakness. So now Dark does neutral against you. You are weak to only Ghost, Flying, and Fairy types, which means Psychic types do neutral damage as well. So it's a fighter that doesn't really have to worry about Confusion users because Confusion does neutral damage. And you also resist fighting. You still resist fighting and rock type still, so that's a good plus. It's a fighter that literally resists other fighters. It's amazing. It's really strong, and now it's at level 50. As you see, you're still weak to Charmers, Flyers, and Ghost types, but even then, with Medicham's moveset, etc., it's still incredibly powerful, and it's super strong. As you see, at level 50, it maxes out at near 16-18, which means Medicham has a new bulk and breakpoint with level 50, and it makes it so much more powerful. As you see, its stats are nuts, boosting it in very high attack, defense, and stamina overall. In other words, it's really good, and it's not hard to see why. As you see, it has Counter. Counter is the best fighting move in the game as far as fast move goes. Generates energy quickly, literally, probably overall, with damage and with energy generation, and just turn move in general. Counter is the most powerful fast move in the game. It also sports Dynamic Punch, Psychic, Power Punch, and Ice Punch. It has such a wide spectrum of coverage, and you have so much selective. It's a very versatile moveset, and because of its moveset, it allows you to pick and choose, and it forces your opponent to keep on guessing. Because if your opponent does shield that puff, it's gonna suck, and even if they don't, if any of its moves hit, it hits like a truck. It's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful, and it serves you very well, especially at level 50 in Go Battle League. As you guys say here, pvpoke.com, one of my favorite websites in the world. If you want to donate, please consider doing so. As you see here, Medicham ranks at number 4 as a level 50 XL Pokemon. Level 50 Medicham is number 4, only losing the scale to G-Fisk and Azu, because you technically beat the crap out of G-Fisk. You also have outs against Azu with Psychic at certain ranges. As you see here, extremely powerful lead closer in Switch. It's powerful in all positions. It's extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. Very, very, extremely powerful. That's all I have to say. Extremely powerful. So Medicham with this moveset, as you see here, the best moveset for is Ice Punch, Psychic. You can run different variations. That's what makes Medicham really good. We can run different variations in Medicham. As you see here, it absolutely destroys G-Fisk and Bastiodon. Super good at, and interesting enough, it also beats Toxicroak thanks to Psychic, and you also take out things like Galvantula and Wish Clash. Medicham is a monster. Now, as you see, your key losses are to Azu. Azu is one of Medicham's weaknesses. However, other than Azu, you do beat out G-Fisk. So technically, Medicham there are answers to where Medicham can beat Azu in certain scenarios. So Medicham is still very, very powerful. It loses to Skarmory, Altaria. Of course, it loses to Flyers. Altaria with Ice Punch, you can flip that matchup against Altaria. Marowak is unfortunately just very oppressive. Alola Marowak is very powerful. And Deoxys, it does lose to Deoxys defense. Deoxys defense does have the ability to fire Psycho Boost and Thunderbolt, and it allows you to resist it. While Medicham resists counter, Deoxys defense also resists Medicham counter. So it's very interesting how that matchup plays out. As you see, incredibly powerful in all positions. The best league in Great League as level 50. Medicham is extremely oppressive, extremely powerful, beating up things like Galarian Stunfisk. It also beats out Machamp, Mantine, and even Azu in leads. Medicham is just so powerful in the lead, able to give you that huge advantage, especially if you do get a positive match or neutral matchup. You're able to do a lot of work with Medicham. On the closer, Medicham XL ranks at number 9. Being able to take out things, it's actually able to beat Azu in the closer. That's what I'm talking about. It's really freaking good. In the closer, Medicham can actually take out Azu, along with Umbreon, Galvantula, Bastion, G-Fisk. Of course, Flyers and Swampert and Lomerock are going to beat you just because of Swampert's ability to deal damage. Flyers, of course, and Deoxys defense to Lomerock, but being able to beat... You're weak to Azu in the 2s, but in the closer you can beat Azu. It's nuts. As a switch, Medicham ranks at number 4. It's actually pretty viable as a safe switch. You don't have a Deoxys defense, but you can have a level 50 Medicham. It's actually pretty dang good. As you see here, takes out Wishcash, Umbreon, Galvantula, Bastion, G-Stunfisk. Unfortunately, as a switch, you can't take out Azu and Skarmory, etc. However, you're able to do a decent amount of damage unless it's something like this. You see Hypno right here, so just be careful of Hypno with this moveset. But I'm going to analyze as many movesets as I can, but as you see, overall, Medicham at level 50 is a beast. Being able to take out some of its weaknesses in certain scenarios, and just overall, it just punches you to death. Like, yeah, it literally just punches you to death. And with, like I mentioned in the Go Hub analysis, with its unique typing, there's not a lot of things that check Medicham. Well, there's a lot of things, but not a lot of things that are like... There's a lot of things that will kill Medicham. So, but not a lot of things that can take out Medicham, if that makes sense. Alright, my favorite part of this website, the Matrix, because with the Matrix, we can figure out what we beat and what we don't beat, and we can play with so many scenarios in the Matrix. As you see here, because Medicham has more movesets than a recipe from a Gordon Ramsay recipe. So I am not going to analyze. What I usually do is I will analyze level 50, level 51, and 40. I'm not going to do that for Medicham. Medicham's got like a Swiss Army moveset. So I'm going to measure a Medicham at... So what we're going to do is just measure it at level 50. And we're going to measure every single moveset and then run it in a Matrix. So as you see here, I have Ice Punch Psychic. That's the number 1 moveset recommended in my PvP poke. Ice Punch Dynamic Punch, Ice Punch Power Up Punch, Dynamic Punch Psychic, and also Power Up Punch and Psychic. This is every combination you can get with Medicham. So we're just going to analyze all at level 50. I'm going to run the simulator into 2 Shield against the Great League meta. That way we see all the scenarios you can, and you can pick and choose which one moveset you want to use for your level 50 Medicham. As you see here, level 50 Medicham is able to absolutely destroy Abomasnow. Now, with the Altaria matchup, you're actually able to beat Altaria in the 2 Shield with Ice Punch. So in the 2 Shield, you do beat Altaria, as long as you have Ice Punch. Without Ice Punch, unfortunately, you don't beat Altaria. You're going to have to be fancy and pretend you have Ice Punch. Well, you do lose against Azu. You do win against Azu in the closer, but in 2 Shield, you do not beat Azu. As you see here, you beat Bastion, you also beat Chestnut. Now, you're going to lose against Charmers because you are weak to Fairy type, so keep that in mind. Be very careful against Charmers because you still are weak to Charmers. Cresselia is going to beat you as well in the 2 Shield scenario. You're able to beat Deoxys defense, as you see here. You do lose with the Dynamic Punch and Psychic combination just because you essentially get walled by Deoxys. But other than that, you can beat Deoxys in the 2 Shield. Deoxys will beat you in the 1s, but you beat in the 2s. See how powerful this Pokemon is? You also beat Diggersby. You beat Dugong as well. Drifblim does beat you, unfortunately, because it's Ghost and Flying. And because it's Ghost and Flying, it kind of sucks when you face it. You beat Ferrothorn. You beat Frostless with... Yeah, okay, so this is a very bait-dependent matchup to win with Psychic and Pup. You basically have to... for Frostless, you have to bait both shields with Pup and then Psychic it down. So that's like the only scenario you win in 2 Shield versus Frostless. Unfortunately, you do lose against Galvantula, and you're going to lose against Haunter just because you're still weak to Ghost. And Hypno still does heavy damage. As you see, Hypno is able to take you out, and also Shadow Hypno. Just because Hypno's thick, it's very powerful, and it can give you a problem, especially with that Shadow Ball. As you see, your Double Punch Hypno is still able to take you out, just straight punching you. Now, Lickitung XL, you do beat Lickitung XL. You also beat Lapras. You also beat Shadow Champ. You're able to take out Mandibuzz as long as you have the Ice Punch Pup version. So you see here, the Ice Punch Pup version is very strong. It's able to there's a lot, without Pup, you basically don't beat Mandibuzz, just because you can't beat the shields and you can't use that extra power to beat Mandibuzz out with a punch. With an Ice Punch. So those attack buffs stack, and then it allows you to beat tanky mons like Mandibuzz. You beat opposing Medicham, so you're gonna beat the level 50 version will beat level 40 Medicham, so that's a plus right there. You do lose against Alolan Marowak and Mantine, so just keep that in mind. Mantine is able to debuff you down, and Alolan Marowak essentially it's very powerful because it's able to resist you, and it puts a lot of pressure on you because you don't have anything that actually... The reason why Machamp beats Alolan Marowak is because it has Rock Slide. You don't have anything like that with Medicham, unfortunately. You beat Melmetal, you lose against Mew, so general synopsis, you're going to lose against Ghost types. Some things that resist you, like Alolan Raichu and Charmers. That's your general layout of what Medicham is weak against. You do beat Munchlax, Obstagoon, Registeel, Scrafty, Shiftry, Skarmory. So you beat Skarmory in the 2-shield, and Skarmory normally beats you in the 1s and other scenarios, but in the 2-shield you can beat Skarmory with every moveset except the Dynamic Punch Psychic version. Every other variation is able to beat it. You also beat Swampert in 2 shields, and you beat Toxicroak in 2 shields. You also beat G-Fisk and regular Stunfisk. You lose against Flyers, of course, because they resist you. Venusaur and Shadow Victory Ball also resist you as well. And like I mentioned, Wiggly wiggles you down. Other than that, you beat everything else. So the general layout for Medicham in the 2-shield is that if it does resist you, like Venusaur, Poison resists fighting, you're going to lose. If it's a Flying or Ghost, you're going to lose. That's just the general basis of it. But if you're able to avoid those typings, and Alolan Raichu, as you see here, you're able to take a very dominant... It's very dominant in the... It's very dominant. Very dominant in the 2-shield. Alright, so I'm going to switch to the 1-shield, and the 1-shield things might flip a little bit. Like I said, Medicham is best used in the lead. So in the 1-shield, things might flip a little bit. As you see here in the 1-shield, you still beat Bama, but this is where you lose against Altaria and Azu, just because without those shields, you're not able to take the extra damage or get those extra moves off to take out Azumarill and Azu. You still beat Bastion, you still beat Chestnut. Unfortunately, you lose against Deoxys defense. You'll lose against Cresselia pretty convincingly now. You lose against... It's basically like the same pattern. Like, if you as you see, you'll lose against Ghost, you lose against Hypno, just because they do resist counters. Anything that resists counter, or double resist counter, or charms you down, you will lose against. And it looks like Mandibuzz does take you out now. You do beat Lapras, you still beat Lickitung XL and Shadow Champ. You're also able to beat other opposing Medichams. You're Meganium, etc. Mew does beat you, though. Those Shadow Claws will wreck you, just because Shadow Claw... Medicham is still weak to Ghost-type Pokemon, so those Shadow Claws are going to suck. And you beat Alolan Raichu does beat you because your counters are resisted by H.U. So just keep that in mind, that H.U. does have a strong matchup against you as well. Sableye is one of your worst nightmares. As you see here, it's extremely powerful with Shadow Claw, and it's going to rip you apart, so just be careful of that. Skarmory, you're able to beat Skarmory if you're able to hit it with Dynamic Punch. So Dynamic Punch, you can beat it in the 1s, but that's your only way to flip it. Other than that, you lose. Now with Swampert, it looks like with Swampert, you need to have, let's see, let's look here. You lose with Ice Punch and Pup, so it looks like you need Dynamic Punch or Psychic to do enough damage to take out Swampert. As you see, you're able to actually beat Tropius, but you need to bait the shield with Pup, and then after you bait the shield with Pup, you need to hit that Ice Punch. So you can beat it, but you need to get that. It's a bait dependent matchup. You're also able to beat Umbreon. Of course, you beat Umbreon, you beat Venusaur with Shadow Victory Bell, Vigoroth, Wishcash, and you're going to lose against Charmers. So the 1-shield's a little more sketchy. 2 shields is where Medicham shines the most, but still, you have some very good matchups against a lot of meta-relevant Pokemon. Now, in the Zeros, things might get a little... Now, Zeros things get interesting as well, because I believe in the Zeros, Medicham can beat Azu. As you see here, go to the Zeros, go to the left. Yes, you can beat Azumarill. As long as you have Psychic, you can actually beat Azumarill in the closer. So let's take a look at Sim. If you have in closer, let's see. Believe it's if you hit it with the Psychic. Okay, so you actually double Psychic. So Azu's super thick, but if you're able to, you can double Psychic it, and then you take out Azu after that. So double Psychic will take out an Azumarill with level 50 Medicham. As you see here, you do take out Medicham, you do take out Bastiodon, and you take out Chestnut. So you're able to take out those matchups. You're also able to You still have very strong matchups against Ziggerbee and Dugong, of course, because they're weak to fighting types. You practically lose the same matchups in the 2s to the... Yeah, you lose the same matchups, essentially. Like I said, if they resist your counters, you essentially lose. Or if they're ghosts and they're going to hit you with super effective damage, you lose. This is a general synopsis. However, in the 0s, you do lose... It looks like you do lose against... You will lose against Lickitung. Or it's a simultaneous knockout, so that's an IV-dependent matchup right here with the Lickitung. IV dependent and damage dependent as well with the Lickitung matchup, and this is where you basically, yeah, you'll still beat other opposing Medichams, but you need to have Ice Punch. It looks like you need to have Ice Punch, or you actually need Psychic. So Psychic is what allows you to take out the Mirror with Medicham. You also lose against Meganium. You noticed in the other simulations you actually beat Meganium in the last scenarios. In the closer you do not, so keep that in mind. Meganium's Black Frenzy Plant will KO. Of course, you lose against Mew and Alolan Raichu, as we mentioned. You'll lose against Registeel in this fashion, just because without shields, it does resist Ice Punch and Psychic. So, unfortunately, that's just what it is. The reason why you win it with Medicham in the other variations is because you have Dynamic Punch or Pup. So, with Dynamic Punch and Pup, you're actually able to take out Registeel. If you're carrying Ice Punch Psychic, unfortunately, it does wall you because Steel does resist both Ice and Psychic, so just be very careful. You'll also lose against Skarmory very convincingly. Be careful, Skarm will take you out if you have a level 50 Medicham in a closer with it. And let's see. You're able to... but you still beat a wide variety of things. You beat Swampert, Toxicroak, Tropius. You actually beat both versions of Tropius in the 0s, which is pretty nuts. You beat Venusaur, you also beat Wishcash, Zweilous, and Vigoroth. So there's a lot of strong matchups. You even beat Shadow Victory Bell in the closer. So it's pretty nuts just how powerful Medicham still is in its positions. Yeah, it's just nuts. Very nuts how powerful it is in the closer. Of course, you're gonna lose against some matchups. Well, there's no helping. You're gonna lose against Charmers. You're gonna lose those Ghost types and those Psychic types. But there's a lot of other relevant matchups that are very strong that you do beat. All right, now that we explored all the scenarios, what happens when you give Medicham shield advantage, or what happens when it has shields? As you see in the 1-0s, it absolutely wrecks a lot of things. Now, you're still going to lose against things like Clefable and Cresselia, and those matchups do flip depending on which moveset you have. But you're still able to beat many relevant matchups, and up a 1-0s, it's still very, very strong. As you see, it's strong enough to where Sableye actually gives you a simultaneous knockout, and you absolutely wreck a lot of the meta with it. Now, just be careful of Charmers, because Charmers will give you a problem still. You don't necessarily get destroyed by them in 1-0s, but be very careful. Now, in the 2-0s, it's very strong. However, like I mentioned, Charmers. Now, in the 2-0s, you'll beat everything but Clefable and Wigglytuff in the 2-0s. So, Medicham still gets destroyed by Charmers, unfortunately, but it's still extremely powerful. And in the 2-1s where you have shield advantage, this is what happens. You still lose against Clefable, you'll still lose against Cresselia, and it gets really... It's like cheese. As you see in the 2-1s, though, you'll beat a lot of matchups. You lose against Hypno, Alolan Marowak, like I mentioned before. The general way to look at that... Very nice. 420. Very nice number. Very nice. Anyways, the general basis of how you want to treat Medicham is that if it's a Charmer or it resists counter, like a Ghost or a Psychic type, you might lose against it, or very likely you're going to lose against it. Like Wigglytuff, and like I mentioned, Ghost types like Alolan Marowak, just because they do resist counters, and Hypno, because Hypno resists your counters, etc. So just keep that in mind. If you keep that general span in mind, you should be able to beat most of everything else, and you can still take out with energy advantage, or with like HP, etc. With quick cured energy, Medicham can itch out those last bits of damage you need to take out the meta. Alright, so if I had to give Medicham a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's extremely powerful in the lead and switch, and actually in all positions. It has a lot of strengths. It's very, very powerful. It has an incredibly versatile moveset, able to really it gives you a lot of customization. If you like playing Ice Punch, you can. If you like what Pup gives you, that extra like buff, that damage counter, and you really, really like that added damage, Pup gives you that option as well. You can use Ice Punch to cover flyers. You can use Psychic to get that stab and hopefully get that defense debuff. There's a lot of play with Medicham. It's also one of the strongest fighters in the game, and with this buff, it looks to be the strongest fighter in Great League, the strongest counter using Great League. It resists other fighters, and it's just so powerful, and it works in a lot of team comps. Now, the reason why I can't give Medicham a 10 out of 10, as you see here, the reason why I can't give it a 10 out of 10 is Charmers. Charmers, Ghosts, and Dark types. Or, not really Dark types. Charmers, Ghosts, and just Charmers, Ghosts, and Hypno. I guess that's why. There's a lot. The problem with Medicham, unless it's in the 2-0s, and even if it's in the 2-0s, Charmers wall you. That's the giant problem with Medicham. Charmers effectively wall you, and you only beat them in certain scenarios. As you see, you can basically beat them only if you have chip damage on them. So if you're locked into a Charmer, it's not going to be a good time. You also have bad matchups against Ghost types, i.e. Driftblim, Sableye, Contra, Gengar. They give you a lot of problems as well. Medicham does have like a super positive matchup, but because those Charmers, Wigglytuff, Clefable, Whimsicott, those can be running around, and that there's a lot of what Medicham's weak to that's popular in the meta. Don't get me wrong, Medicham is super powerful, but I can't give it a perfect score. I gave things like Azu a perfect score because Azu is just so prevalent, and its moveset actually allows it to cover those weaknesses. Medicham unfortunately doesn't have a hard cover to it doesn't have a hard cover to those things that resist it. So if Medicham had something like, I guess, like Foul Play, or like, I don't know, like Foul Play or like Dark Pulse or something like that, that had a coverage move that could cover its weaknesses, then yes, I could give it a higher rating. But unfortunately, I just can't. With that being said, 9 out of 10 is still an incredibly powerful rating. Actually, here, let's just put this, 9.5. 9.5, and the only 0.5 is just because of the Ghost and the Charmer matchup. Just because it's so strong. It still wins 80% of its matchup in the 2-shield, and it's actually the strongest fighter in the game. So, well, not that in the game, but like in Great League, you know, at level 50 with Great League. And you can still have some outs. For example, if this Togekiss does have chip damage, let's assume it's starting at 40 HP, you still have a chance to win. As you see here, you're able to squeeze out a win in the zeros as long as you're able to OKO these Pokemon. Medicham also has counter, so because counter generates energy quickly, it's the strongest, most powerful, fast move in the game overall, statistically, with DP and energy generation. It's so good. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be doing more level 50 analysis. As you see, Medicham is the most powerful fighter in Great League at level 50, and it's going to give you a lot of good, positive wins and W's. Well, wins and W's are the same things, but it's going to give you them dubs in Great Go Battle League. Good luck on your battles, and I will see you guys on the next video.